So I've spent the last 5.5 months collecting and testing all the top globally available smartphones. I've rated every single one's performance, camera, battery, and display based on what price it's selling for and given them an overall value rating. Okay, so at the back end is Nokia, specifically the X20, which is their affordable flagship 2021 phone. And Nokia's doing a lot of great stuff right now. Their phones are all inexpensive, they're bloatware-free, Nokia gives extended warranties and loads of software support. Their entire angle is sustainability, smartphones that you buy and you keep. It really is an admirable message, but I think they recently came out with the A52, which is like their mid-range flagship of the year. And there's nothing inherently wrong with it. It's a fun design, it's pleasant to use, but it costs too much for what it is. It's pretty clear that all Samsung's done is taken one of their top-end phones and made everything a bit worse. But for $500 in today's market, you can nearly buy yourself an actual flagship, so you don't need to make this kind of compromise. Do you remember the Oppo Find X3 Pro, the company's 2021 flagship that looks a little too close to the iPhone for it to be a coincidence? Well, there's plenty to like about it. It's supremely comfortable for starters, thanks to being made of one continuous sheet of glass, and that microscope camera on the back it's unlike anything I've ever seen on a phone before. But the main issue, and this seems to happen every year, is that as soon as Oppo launches a flagship phone, it is pretty much destroyed in value by OnePlus's flagship that launches a month later. Both companies use very similar components and materials, and they are good components and materials, but the fact that this phone is selling at the equivalent of $1,500 makes it much less good for the money. And that's actually a pretty great segue onto our next phone. So, we're getting pretty used to the idea of paying over $1,000 for a top-end flagship, right? But ZTE has something to say about that. Yeah. ZTE, they are still making phones, but their Axon 30 Ultra genuinely is worth talking about, because it has the highest end Snapdragon 888 chipset, a 144Hz refresh rate AMOLED display, big battery, fast charging, stereo speakers, really everything, and it even looks an awful lot like Samsung's Note 20 Ultra, which is not at all a criticism. And most significantly, I'm told this is going to cost $800. Excuse me? I was having a whale of a time with it, until I tested the cameras, and they really revealed just how much progress the competition has made. Everything from the interface to the image processing feels really behind. I'll reserve final judgment until updates drop, because this camera hardware should be better than this, but in its current state, it's a B. And thanks to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring this video. Okay, the iPhone 12 mini, where is it? Has not been a commercial hit. When Apple first came out and announced that they built a fully flagship 5G iPhone that literally fits into your palm, I think a lot of us thought, whoa, that's gonna fly off the shelves. But it didn't. According to research firms, this phone only made up about 5 to 7% of total iPhone 12 sales. But that doesn't mean it's a bad phone. I think the reason it didn't sell well is because A, the price is so close to the much bigger iPhone 12, combined with B, that Apple has kind of built an association between their smaller phones being their cheaper phones, which may have created the perception that the 12 mini was an inferior product. But really it is the same speedy experience with a great camera as the 12, that I can recommend to any iPhone fan who doesn't need a power user's level of battery life. Okay, now we're getting onto the really good phones. The ROG Phone 5 is a beast. It's the highest performing smartphone I've used to date. Its 6,000 mAh battery is ludicrous, actually earning it the best battery phone so far in 2021, and its speakers are so punchy that you will want to stop whatever it is you're doing and just lose yourself in them. Its only problem comes from the fact that it's a pretty specialized device. Like, it takes a certain kind of user to want to carry a phone of such monumental proportions, tolerate some slightly outdated looking bezels, and use a camera system that feels noticeably lacking. But if you are that user, then Bob's your uncle. But what kind of surprised me, almost as much as phone number 1 is going to surprise you, is that even though Asus has been dominating the gaming space for a while now, I don't think they're the best value anymore. Enter the Lenovo Legion Phone Duel 2. It almost exactly matches the ROG in specs, but you get 50% more RAM and 100% more storage by default. It has fans built inside of it instead of needing this external attachment, and somehow it's cheaper. The hardware on this phone is so good for the money that they can't be making a lot of profit. But it is a little let down on the software front, like the camera image processing isn't getting the best out of the camera hardware you have here. Still though, this is an A-grade phone, and is also the winner of Best Gaming Phone on the market right now. Okay, you might remember from my best phones of 2020 video that one of the huge battery, seamless uninterrupted screen, and a capable camera that can also double as basically the greatest selfie machine of all time. Well, this is basically the successor to that. So as you can probably imagine, it's a very good phone, but it's no longer one of the best simply because all they've done is taken last year's Zenfone 7 and given it a slight spec bump. And that's just not enough against companies who are really pushing. Still though, I'm willing to bet that if you ever get to try this selfie camera, it is so good that you have to smile. Alrighty, you might remember my video on this guy, the Vivo X60 Pro Plus. To be honest, I've used a decent amount of Vivo devices over the years, and I've always liked them, but I've never really loved them. They kind of developed a reputation for a garish software overlay and crazy levels of skin beautification in the cameras, but the Vivo X60 Pro Plus is the first Vivo phone I've used that understands sophistication. Did I just change my entire outfit to film one sentence? Maybe. Aesthetically, it treads the line well between looking fashionable and looking like it means business, and everything from the gaming performance to the camera performance is very close to the best you can buy, and it helps that the camera is just super fun to use too. It's slightly let down by a mono speaker and middle-of-the-line battery, but that doesn't stop me loving it. Number 13, the iPhone 12 Pro. This is a great phone, but the reason that it's not higher up on the list is that, the way I see it, it's just an optional extra to the 12. It offers a few fairly minor features like a LiDAR scanner for better augmented reality and a 2x telephoto lens. I appreciate these, but for the majority of consumers, the only noticeable difference will be the extra storage it comes with, the fact that it's heavier, and the fact that it has a matte finish. It's basically the iPhone to get if you want to spend a bit more than the base, but you don't want to get the max-sized one. And that leads me onto the base iPhone 12, because this phone hugely benefits by how similar it is to the 12 Pro. You know, just before they launched, I was using both these phones at the same time, and I couldn't even tell you how many moments I had where I'd pick one off the table, use it for a good 5 minutes, only to realize I'd picked the wrong one up. This phone is just as powerful, the screen is almost identical, you still get all the same iOS features, it's just $200 cheaper. The only reason this isn't higher up on the list is that it only comes with a 60Hz display versus 120 or the 144 we've started seeing now, and it only starts with 64 gigs of storage, which is going to end up being more like 50 by the time you factored in the size of the operating system. So still an A grade. And just above that, I would put Samsung's base flagship. The S21 and S21 Plus are not the most exciting devices. They don't do anything particularly new or groundbreaking. In fact, in a lot of ways, they're a complete side grade from last year's S20 phones. But they bring in a lot of smaller, quality of life improvements. They've had a redesign that takes them from some of the worst looking flagships to some of the best in my books. And in a bit of a surprise turn of events, they're cheaper than last year's.